Hey, Chris, it's Beth Berry from Real Green Services. How are you doing today?
Beth, we're doing great. It's a cool day in the Pacific Northwest, but we're all cozy in our own homes.
I am trying to see what you've got going on behind you there. Is it an apron? What is it?
Well, let's see. We got some copper pots, and I've set up my home office here in a little breakfast nook that we have in our home.
Oh,
Some
very, very
dish
nice.
rags hanging from that. Looks like some stringy grass things too.
I applaud the decorator. I'm guessing it wasn't you.
No.
So I'm Beth Berry. I'm the Vice President of Real Green Systems. I'm broadcasting from Indianapolis, Indiana today from my home office. We are all working remote at Real Green. And where is your home office today, Chris? Are you in Utah or Washington?
I'm in Washington.
Washington. So I did a little research. I've known you for several years, and I thought I worked at the pioneer of lawn care. Hold my beer. You guys have been around since 1947. That's craziness. So tell me about your dad and why he started pest and lawn care and how he made Spokane rat-free in 1952. That's a cool story.
Yeah, about the year I was born.
Well, then there was one rat.
Yeah, exactly. He was a chemical engineer and in the chemical corps, and one of his jobs in World War II was to build a bomb manufacturing plant. And in the process of reading all about building a bomb plant, he kept seeing these things about DDT and 2,4-D, and 2,4-D was just at that time coming onto the market for cereal crops, and he thought, I might be able to kill dandelions out of my Aunt Tilly's lawn that I used to have to dig by hand. And he really didn't enjoy the after the war, he went to work in a rubber factory and didn't enjoy that so much. So he went back to Spokane, and where he grew up, and started the business. Built a little sprayer, and in 1947, he had a wheelbarrow and a pump, and pushed it down the street and sprayed the lawns. And he left a note on every door that he sprayed and said, if it works, pay me 50 cents. If not, don't pay me. And that's how we started.
That is craziness. And people cared about dandelions back in 1947, huh?
Sure. Yeah. You've seen the dandelion digging tools.
Oh, yes. Yeah, the old forks. You're right. I do.
Exactly.
So today you offer lawn, pest, tree maintenance, snow, holiday lights. Did I miss anything?
Sounds like a comprehensive list.
Yeah, and you're in Yakima, Kennewick, Seattle, Tacoma, Boise, Idaho Falls, Coeur d'Alene, Salt Lake City, Orem, Provo, and Vegas.
Yep.
That's very cool. Very, very cool. Well, I have been a long time admirer of you and your leadership in the industry. I appreciate you spending a few minutes with us today. I've yielded questions from across the industry, and folks are always looking to people like you to learn what your insights are and to give us hope and inspiration during this time. So tell me a little bit about how Senske has changed in the last couple of weeks in terms of service delivery and what's going on with your employees.
Well, these are really unusual times. We've been through Jimmy Carter, high inflation. We've been through Rachel Carson and Silent Spring. We've been through the mortgage crisis, but this is really different. We have been
9/11 was bad, but it's the confluence of the health aspects of it and the financial aspect, all in a matter of a couple weeks.
Exactly. We have been fortunate in that the states that we've operated in have either not had much of a response, that is lockdown, for the most part, except for Washington State, of course, where a lot of the early cases were. And also been fortunate because the states, once they did do something, pretty much adopted the Department of Homeland Security guidelines for essential workers. And so we've been able to keep operating right through from an operational perspective, from out in the field, just like normal. Well, not really like normal, because we're trying to keep people separated, keep them out of our facilities, have their trucks all set up in the morning for them outside, and their invoices ready, handy, where they can, or their worksheets where they can pick up whatever paperwork they need, and not have to interact with each other very much. And so communication is critical, training is critical, teaching them how to be extra safe about washing their hands constantly in between jobs. And that's been the things we've done operationally. We only operate with one person per truck, so for the most part, so that's handy. Some trucks have two, and we're just getting guidelines in place for example, the arbor guys. There's one guy on one side of the truck, and 6 feet on the other side of the truck is his helper. And so we're just going to be putting guidelines in place for that. In fact, they may already be in place. I just am not aware of it from a health perspective. Our corporate office and call center, it represents somewhere around 50 to 60 employees. We're all working from home, except for one person is, or two people are receiving cash payments and processing those, and getting the checks to the bank. And then we have an IT guy that's working in the office, but the rest of us are working from home. We had enough foresight about 3 weeks ago. We sent some guys out to just go buy a boatload of laptops, just in anticipation that this could happen. And I'm telling you, you can't find a laptop in town now, at least one that's reasonably priced. Mm-hmm. And so we cleaned out Costco and got a few from Best Buy, and we're able to keep operating. And it seems like it's going okay. I haven't talked to Chuck, who runs our call center here today, but last week it seemed like his methodologies of communicating with the team, that they were happy to be working and good to go.
And do your technicians feel confident out in the field? And what have consumers said to them?
I missed the beginning of that.
Are your technicians comfortable going out in the field, especially since they are outside and socially distant? And what kind of response have they received from consumers?
Well, first off, our governor put out a request that any 65-year-old employees be allowed, if they wanted, to stay home. So I called all our 65 and up technicians who were working out in the field at the time, and suggested that we wanted them to be safe and to take whatever steps they felt comfortable with. And to a T, they all said they wanted to be out in the field working. So as a whole, everybody's happy to be working and not stuck at their homes. And from what I've heard, for the most part, now there's always an exception, but most people are very happy to see us. They're can even take a little extra of the technician's time if they get their ear and kind of talk their ear off a little bit, because they all turned into 75-year-old ladies at the front door. Now we do have a process that we call knock and walk, so that we're not interacting closely with customers. If they want to track us down and talk to us, then that's fine. Normally, our procedure is to knock and talk to the customer before the job, talk to the customer after the job, and then leave. But now we just knock and start about our work immediately, so that there's no, so that we keep social spacing.
That makes a lot of sense. I talked to Larry Ryan last week from Ryan Lawn and Tree, and he indicated most of his customers were glad that local business was going about what they were doing, and that most consumers recognize what a critical time of the year it is to receive lawn care, and they're going to spend more time out in the lawn. They're all home. Certainly an emphasis on quality, not that Senske hasn't always had quality, but you can bet there's a lot of those 75-year-old women looking out the window and watching everything you do. So that's good, though. It just begs more engagement, I suppose.
Yeah. First it was the doorbell cameras, then cameras all over the house looking outside, and now it's people peering out the window. So anybody doing work at anybody's house, you need to be doing the best job you can, and being cognizant that there are eyes, and probably multiple eyes, on you at every moment.
That's true. Consumer response to lawn care. I have long admired your marketing campaigns and your entire team. Are you getting a similar response that you've had in previous springs in terms of engagement?
We are actually slightly down on leads, and not terribly down, but slightly down. And so consequently, we're slightly down on sales, and we're slightly up on cancels, or at front door holds. That it really isn't surprising, but it hasn't been a big impact yet. I lost my thoughts, so we can go on to the.
Well, I'll ask you while we're on that about slightly down, and slightly is a great word to be using right now, but in previous times where you've had economic stress in the lawn care industry, what are some tactics that work really well to save cancels, especially if this would become more considerate in terms of, are we a necessary expense? What are the types of, do you offer less services? Do you offer front and sides? How do you try to shore that up?
Well, if we had to, we might try some of those techniques, but that hasn't been necessary at this point in time. And even in the mortgage crisis in 2009, we just kept on advertising and pushing ahead. Now it was the 1 year, and since I've been working, that we hadn't grown that particular year, but we actually made more money. Probably had better, more serious customers at the time. So I am pretty much taking that same tactic right now. In fact, we're just talking to Becca, our marketing person, and we're planning to do an additional mailing that we hadn't originally planned on. Mostly because, and this might be part of the reason why our sales are down a little bit. It's been extremely cool and moist in the Pacific Northwest, and actually down into Utah. Just the whole West Coast has been cool, and we haven't had a day hit 70 yet.
Wow.
So we are thinking that, or I'm thinking that part of the lack of additional customers has to do with the weather. Dandelions haven't popped yet. Normally by this time of year the yards are full. So we'll just see what happens. So we're gonna back it up with a little more advertising, and hopefully come out of this. When we all come out, hopefully our sales will come out too.
Would you think it's a good time to pivot to a new service line? I've talked to some in the lawn and pest space who are considering adding an antimicrobial disinfectant service line, just to kind of capitalize on current opportunities. Is it a good time or a bad time to shift to a new service line?
Well, I know we are launching a mosquito program in a couple markets this spring, and I anticipate that that will be successful. We're doing it on a fairly limited basis, so it's not a big high risk thing, and we don't have to do a lot of capital investment to make it happen. The issue with the sanitizing is, one, a lot of people's insurance doesn't cover it.
To go inside for that.
It's difficult to get that kind of insurance. Insurance companies are not clear that they want that risk. Two, we just don't do enough commercial work, and I hadn't really considered it for residential application, but we don't do enough commercial work to make it really marketable at this time.
I gotcha.
And so that's my opinion is, if you get excited about it, great, go for it. But
you do perimeter pest already, is that correct?
I missed that. I'm sorry.
You do perimeter pest already, correct?
Yes. Yep.
Yeah.
And that's a good add-on service for any lawn care company.
Absolutely. You're also new on the board of National Association of Landscape Professionals. I know they've been begging you for years, and we really need your leadership there. I'm the membership chair, and boy, if we've ever had a better marketing campaign than now, the work that you guys are doing to keep us out on the lawns is, I can't say enough about it. Your entire team, Andrew Bray and everyone at NALP has worked round the clock with local and state and federal providers to keep us in the essential business, if you will. Do you think that the CISA document will continue to be the governing, for the most part, that's the one that the governors are looking at in terms of classifying and giving us guidance on essential workforce?
I think so. You know, it carries a lot of credibility when you talk about Homeland Security as being the source of the document. And it is fairly comprehensive. It just had some, the original version had some gray areas in it that Andrew particularly worked hard at getting clarified to specifically name landscape in the definitions of essential worker. So that is a feather in his cap for sure. And it's great for NALP to have been the leader in getting state associations organized to contact their governors and provide that particular document to them. There have been a couple of hot spots around the country, Michigan, Wisconsin, and I guess Minnesota now is somewhat challenged. I do understand that there has been a significant amount of work locally in Wisconsin, and that may change, if it hasn't already, to having landscape folks named as essential workers. And the local Michigan Association is communicating desperately with the governor's office to try and get that straightened out there as well. So there's hope. There are people working on it in every state, any state that has an association, trying to keep the landscape workforce operating.
Anything new from NALP in terms of what we should do as an organization and industry?
Missed the first part of that, but I think I got the question. Well, why don't you restate it again?
Is there anything from an NALP perspective that the industry can do to continue to support those efforts? And is there anything new that they're working on?
Well, one of the things, and it actually popped up this weekend in Washington State, is independently or independent contractors not maybe being as savvy with the political process, queried the governor's office on if his direction that had the old verbiage of Homeland Security document of essential worker, if it included landscape. And darn, if that doesn't just mess things up, because for a bureaucrat, it's so much easier to say no than it is to say yes. That it's better to work as a cohesive group. My feeling has been that it's a herd mentality. If we're all out working, then it will look normal and it will look like it's supposed to be. And we really don't expose our customers and or our employees to much additional threat to this virus by being out working. So the essential worker category for landscape is certainly a reasonable request.
I had time on my
with this new document, with the new revised version of the Department of Homeland Security guidance, it will be helpful in providing it to the governor's offices or the local community, the mayor's office, or whoever is considering regulations on stay at home. The other thing that's going to help is if the curve actually is flattened and there is not a significant increase even where landscape is going on, then that is another argument that we're not impacting the public health.
Interesting. I had time on my hands this weekend because I can't go anywhere, so I made a spreadsheet of the commencement date of mosquitoes in every single state, because that's what people like you and I do. And most of our customers do offer some sort of mosquito control, and it also, every state board of health will suggest which diseases they expect to come from those mosquito vector borne during that time period. And it's hard to imagine that our hospitals and health could keep up with Lyme disease and Zika and some of these other diseases that actually occur in April and May if we're not ahead of that as well, especially with more people outside playing in the lawn.
Well, I think it is a very saleable service. We haven't participated in it because most of our communities have government agencies that take care of that, and they do a heck of a good job. The mosquito control districts, well, in my town, for example, they drive through my parking lot and put a growth regulator down in all of our dry wells in our parking lot. And wow. I don't even have to ask them to do it. It's just part of their routine maintenance to keep the mosquitoes from developing. We do have a couple markets where they don't have mosquito, and so we're looking forward to that time when it gets warm enough to have an outbreak
yes.
of mosquitoes.
Yeah.
In the Seattle Puget Sound area, they don't have a serious mosquito problem. They still get some, but it doesn't get real warm like it does in other parts of the country. So they don't reproduce as well, and the populations aren't so great. So we're going to monitor that and see if that's a place where we should be providing this service as well in the future.
Interesting. And then lastly, from a leadership perspective, and you've gone through a lot of ups and downs in your career and been a leader in the industry, what advice would you give to lawn care industry owners and managers about how to manage the workforce, the consumer response, and the hope for us to move forward right now?
Well, it's, the key ingredient, really the only ingredient is communication and training. Communication to your employees and training of your employees is so critical, and it's got to be reinforced all the time to get them to wash their hands and don't touch their face and wear gloves when they're working. That is so important. I can't emphasize it enough. Don't shake hands. There's that tendency that when you see somebody to automatically stick your hand out to greet them, and we just can't do that right now. As far as customers, I think some say don't send anything out to a customer because and tell them about what you're doing because it just triggers cancellations. Well, I think they need to be encouraged that we're thinking about them as well as we're thinking about our employees, and they need to know that we are concerned about our employees and have them out working, and that we're wanting to take care of the customer as well. So we did end up doing an email blast to all of our customers, and I think we sent some letters out as well to communicate with them about the what we're doing to reduce the risk of the coronavirus.
I'm a hugger. It just kills me when even my sons, I don't hug them if they have to stop by to pick something up. So that's difficult. But I know what you're saying about washing your hands. I feel like we've all failed as parents. This practice should have started before now, really.
Well, if you saw the videos of the Chinese school teachers teaching the kids to do this.
Back of the hands, yeah.
We have a ways to go. There are a couple things that are coming up. NALP will be sending out some guidance before long on safe practices and what to do with your employees. Things like 1 or 2 per truck and keeping spacing. If you're a landscape company and you have a back seat in your truck, then space out your employees. So no more than 3 in a truck, 2 in the front seat, 1 in the back. Keeping the windows open when there's more than 1 person in the truck when possible, if it's not raining or something like that. Keeping gloves on when you're traveling. And there's also came out last Friday, I think, a new OSHA poster that needs to go up in your office for coronavirus safety.
Interesting. Well, I can't thank you enough for everything you've done for our industry, and you are truly a leader, and everything you do is watched by others. And thank you for your time today. We really appreciate it.
It's been a blast. Thanks, Beth.
I wish I could hug you and have a glass of wine with you, but we'll have to save that for another day.
Okay, come see us.
I will. Thanks, Chris. You take care of yourself and your family.
Bye now.
Bye-bye.